Alright, I think this should work out pretty good today. Yes, very nice. Very nice indeed. Another episode of Devil Dog Addiction is about to begin. 2 minutes. Let me get some water. Get everybody a chance to join online if anybody's going to join us today to get a little bit of sobriety in the morning. We have a special guest. Alright, we got that one going, we got that one going, we got that one going. We got everything going. It's time to get going on this very beautiful episode of Devil Dog Addiction. What up there, Don? How's it going? My name's Nick. This is Devil Dog Addiction. We're talking about isolation today with a very special guest, Smudge the kitty cat. Hello, Mr. Smudge. Hello. The music today is courtesy of Vinyl Records, George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. That's right. It's a good record. We'll put it right there. Today, my friends, isolation. Isolation. The wall within. The wall within all of us, folks. The danger of being isolated. Isolation is not just quiet time. Oh no. In truth, being isolated and isolating yourself is relapse in a bottle, folks. It's packed and ready to go. It's the lie that says, I'm better off alone. It's the lie that says, I can do it better by myself. The lie that says, I don't need you, I don't need you, I don't need you or you. That, my friends, is incorrect. Because recovery teaches us that the very opposite of isolation is much better. We heal by hearing each other. That's right, folks. We survive by sitting in the same room as other people and saying, yeah, me too. Saying, oh yeah, that's right. I also feel that way. Oh, that's right. I feel the same as you. And my friends, if you feel a certain way, there's a pretty good chance that there's a lot of other people out there that feel just like you. But it's difficult for us not to get stuck feeling like we're the only people in the world, because you can be surrounded by millions of people in a city like Chicago, right, and still feel alone. How many of us out there still feel alone even when we have a bunch of people that we know. We even have people that we talk to on a daily basis. Maybe we have a bajillion Facebook or Instagram friends or Twitter and the like. But maybe the truth is, nobody is too different to be part of something bigger than themselves. Nobody is too different to belong. Nobody is too different to have to do this journey of life by themselves. So the base reading for today, we're going to get into the 24-hour day book. Many of us spent long periods of isolation, feeling different, apart, alone. But the truth is, no one is too different to belong. Today, my friends, we find ourselves in others. We find ourselves in others when we stop hiding from them. When we stop hiding from others, we end up finding the good things in ourselves that we like to find in others, as opposed to the opposite thing that usually happens, which is usually we find things in people that we don't like, and then we judge them for it. To paraphrase this, friends, this is what this whole walk and talk is about, is realizing that these walls we build, the walls we build for protection, the walls that we put up so we don't have to be connecting with other people, yeah. So anyway, like I was saying, this whole thing is about that walking the walk and talking the talk. Realizing the walls that we build for our own protection in our lives, the walls that we build to maybe keep it from being hurt, are the actual walls that become the prison that we have to stay inside. It's not a crowd that cures us, folks. It's not a bunch of people that's going to make us feel better. It's the courage to be known ourselves inside that crowd. And once you know yourself, it'll be a lot easier to let other people know you. So let's get into some key terms for today. Number one, isolation. So when we do definitions on devil dog addiction, we don't necessarily give like the Webster dictionary definition of something. We talk about the definition of this word in terms of what we're talking about today. So today we're talking about isolation. So we'll talk about this in isolation. What does it mean for this talk? Emotional withdrawal disguised as safety. So isolation, a lot of people say, oh, I need to get away from this, I need to get away from that, I need to get away from that, blah, 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 right? But then they get so withdrawn that they end up being not connected to anybody. So we get to the next word of the day. Empathy loss. Here we go, folks. The dulling of compassion when your heart goes numb. Because if you are dull because of your lack of any kind of compassion, because A, maybe you've never been shown compassion before, or B, maybe you're just in a damaging place in your life and you don't have any room for compassion, or C, maybe you're just never have been challenged like this before, or been like, hey, I've never even thought about that. And I think there's so many people out there that just go through life in not even blissful ignorance, just idiotic ignorance, when they could really open their hearts and minds to an idea that is bigger than themselves. Spiritual malnutrition. The emptiness, my friends, that comes when you starve your soul from honest human interaction. And no, this right here is not human interaction, right? Or even when you do some sort of thing online at all, basically, it's not really human interaction. Even if you're actually talking to people, you still need to get into the nitty-gritty of being with people. Sorry, what about that? What up, Memi Zalemir? I can't really read that. Drew, what up? Sue Smith, what up? Sorry if I can't read all the comments all the way down there. It's just the iPad is down yonder. But anyway, my friends, let's get into it. The silent withdrawal. That's right, it starts small. You know that this thing starts small, this isolation. This little isolation thing that turns into a big damaging issue starts tiny. Like most addiction does, right? A text you don't return. Yeah. A phone call you don't return, a text you don't return for a few days, right? A meeting that you skipped that you knew that you're supposed to go to, maybe a job function you're supposed to go to that you didn't go to. And then at night, when you're laying in bed and you're thinking about your life, you're thinking about the day that's gone by, what do you think? You say, oh, I'll go tomorrow. I'll take care of it another day, right? But tomorrow never comes, and that isolation sneaks in quiet like a little squeaky mouse, and your recovery dies quiet. The big book says we are people who normally would not mix. We are people who, on any other given day, would not be connected by anything at all. But in this addiction, my friends, we are all connected. The addiction, affliction does not matter if you are, whatever your skin color is, whatever your religion is, whatever your national creed is. Opioids do not give a fuck, right? Alcohol sure as shit doesn't care where you're from, right? Or what language you speak, right? The big book also says this: we would not mix, yes, but it also says that we cling together like survivors on a ship. Yeah, think about that one. Put that one in your mind. If your ship had just gone down and say you're struggling in the frigid ocean and there's a little lifeboat right there and you're all clinging to it, that, my friends, is clinging to recovery. But you cannot cling. Oh, nay, you cannot cling. Hey, if you die, right, which is where harm reduction comes in. We're trying to keep you alive long enough to get that miracle of sobriety. Right there, old Harry, too. Hello. What up there, Mr. Brightside 9? What up there, August Jin 63? I think that's what it says. Sorry about that. But anyway, you can't cling to it if you're on another island altogether, or if you're not even swimming in the right sea. According to the NIH, right, chronic loneliness activates the same brain regions as physical pain. So when you're lonely, it's literally like you're going through physical pain. The mind literally bleeds from being alone, right? And an addiction, well, I guess it literally doesn't bleed, but you could say it figuratively bleeds when you're alone. And in addiction, that pain, you know what pain is, my friends? Tell me what it is. Choo, 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 it's a trigger. That's right, it's the setup, at least, to the next slip. Oh, sorry, Smudgy. Yeah, Smudge doesn't like the word trigger. Oh, no, he sure doesn't like relapse. Those who report feeling isolated are 29% more likely to relapse in the first year of recovery, right? So that's not a theory, that's not a guess, that's not a, well, maybe this will happen if we do this. This is a, this will happen 29% of the time at least, give or take a few, right? So this is basically a warning label, right? Hey, what up there, Frank? It's a warning label, my friends. You've seen it. You've seen it everywhere you go. The VA says 1 in 4 post 9/11 vets wrestle with long-term social isolation. And that is not about service, folks. That is about silence, because you cannot recover if you are still hiding. You cannot recover if you are still stuck in a world of ignorance. The spiritual infection is such as this. Isolation doesn't just starve connection. It rots your spirit. It kills gratitude, it destroys empathy, and it moidalizes truth. One quiet day at a time. The NA Basic Tech puts it like this, right? Our disease isolates us from people. And except when we're using, right? It isolates us from people except when we're using. Yikes. When we isolate sober, we're basically using old habits with new names. The Harvard Human Flourishing Study found that people who meet weekly in support communities are 47 times more likely to feel satisfied with life. So hey, if you're looking for a place with a little peace of mind, if you're searching for a little bit of rest in your soul, if you're seeking a little bit of happiness or contentness or feeling good about your day-to-day life, then seek no further, my friends, because you have found the spot to at least start this wonderful journey of sobriety. And speaking of chemistry, UCLA researchers discovered that acts of compassion trigger the same dopamine release as addictive drugs. So get off the dope and get on the hope, folks, because it's time to get clean and be happy in your sobriety. And that means connection, the opposite of isolation, literally rebalances the same system that we once fed the poison to. You know what I'm talking about, folks. And so, like we said earlier, if the same drug is released the dopamine as the drugs, and then earlier we said that when you that it's the same as physical pain, right? Having that withdrawal or that loneliness, feeling alone, it's the same drugs that's released in the brain as physical pain. So add these things together, and what does it mean? Well, it means that isolation increases PTSD severely, and severity by up to 38%. That's right, folks. That's not a wound. That's not a stomach ache. That is an infection or IBS, right? Spiritually saying. And when you cut off connection, you cut off growth. And if growth is nothing more than what is the purpose of life, then yikes. What's going on here? Paul said it best, right? We are many parts of one body. You can't sever a limb. Blah, blah. It can't heal, right? If you sever it off, there's no healing involved. It's just gone, right, folks? So yeah, the opposite of using is not sobriety. We always say that using in hardcore addiction is basically isolation, right? Incarnate. So we'll say the opposite is this. The opposite of sobriety is not addiction, right? The opposite of addiction is connection. Yes. So when you sit in silence too long, it starts to sound like truth. But silence without honesty is just, the echo of this fear. So reach out, speak up, and sit close, folks, because it's time to let someone see yourself today, because this is how healing starts. If the wall keeps getting taller, maybe it's time to stop stacking bricks, right? And start building a little bit of a bridge, or maybe a ladder to climb up. And that's where it leads us right now, to segment 2 of 5 of Devil Dog Addiction. Here we go. Segment 2, the cost of comfort. They tell us to get comfortable being uncomfortable. They say, oh, better get comfortable being uncomfortable, folks. But comfortable, that is the sneakiest, squeakiest relapse that there is. Because when life gets too easy, we forget why we fought to stay alive. When life gets too easy, we forget to grow. When life gets too easy, we forget to try to do things that we wouldn't usually do if the world was not so tough. So if people are born into fancy schmancy, easy living arrangements, then what can we expect them to grow for? But anyway, we don't want to talk about that kind of thing. We're going to talk it in the terms of drug addiction today, because when we start mistaking quiet for peace and control for recovery, well, comfort can be the new addiction. How many of us are addicted to our phones? How many of us are addicted to our PlayStation 5s? How many of us are addicted to our fancy gadgets and fancy gizmos and gadgets galore? Like straight out of The Little Mermaid, right? We've got who's its and what's its galore. And thingamabobs, well, we've got plenty. But anyway, the base reading for this one is from Just for Today. When we become complacent in our recovery, we stop growing. Our comfort can turn into isolation, our peace into paralysis. We must continue to take risks. See little smudgy wudgy? He's our little buddy. That's right. We must continue to take risks. Because if we don't, yikes. But we need to reach out and we need to stay teachable. Stay teachable. Open-mindedness, willingness to change. We got some core ideas going on here. And that's the warning most of us miss. Most of us miss it, my friends. Comfort is not the goal. Getting a bunch of things, getting a bunch of whatchamahoots is not the goal. It's a test. It is a test, my friends. It's the moment when we stop stretching out our own silly ideas and when gratitude turns into enlightenment. Because we have to go from one thing to the next and then from one thing to the next. Because it's not enough just to be like, oh, I'm not thankful for this today. And then you change your things to be like, oh, I'm thankful for this today. Before long, I'm thankful for this today is not going to be enough. So you're going to want to move forward to the next thing where you keep growing. When spiritual hunger gets fed by self-will, one more time, folks, we need to watch out for that, because complacency, resting on our laurels, complacency, standing back, waiting for something else to happen, waiting for someone else to do it, waiting for someone else, waiting for this, waiting for that, waiting, instead of doing. Number one, complacency, mistaking maintenance for growth. A lot of us do this. A lot of us sit around and we're like, oh, you know, I'm growing, I'm growing, I'm growing. But really, you're just maintaining. You say, oh, you know, I'm getting better at this, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. But really, we're just not getting worse, right? Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, this. But really not completing anything. How about this? Self-will. The illusion that comfort means control. That because you have gained some material goods in the world, that maybe you got some monies. Maybe you got a fancy car. Maybe you have a nice apartment. Maybe you have a nice house. Maybe you have a nice set of clothes, right? Maybe you have what you think everybody in the world should be jealous of. And so in that case, you think, I have a little bit of a control. I have some control here. I got some control there. I got money. I must have control. But that, my friends, is the illusion. You are stuck in this illusional of comfort meaning control, which is wrong, my friends. That leads us on to the next one, entitlement. The erosion of gratitude when once we believed we've earned our peace. Like, oh, I'm going to earn my human peace. I'm going to earn my way to this, earn my way to that, earn. It's not about earning something for something. What up there, Herbert James 29? It's not about getting something because you've done something and that's why you did it. You don't do something so you can't get something. It's not the whole thing. That's defeats the purpose of the whole growth. So that entitlement thing where you're like, oh, well, you know, that's just me, or, you know, that's our family name, so we deserve this, or, you know, well, my dad did this, or my grandpa did this, or my mom did this, or my grandma did this, or my so far and so on and so forth, and back and back and back. What up there, Albatross? What up there, Nehemiah and Mabrano? What up there, Nunu? Hope you guys are having a good day. My name's Nick. This is Double Dog Addiction. We're talking about isolation today. We're on segment 2 of 5. Rich but empty. We all chase stability. We all chase money, love, success. But stability without spirit, stability without character, stability without moderation and discipline becomes a coffin lined with comfort, folks. Here's the trap. The more we have, the less we notice the people without. The World Inequality Lab reported that the top 1% of earners now hold 43% of global wealth. Well, the bottom half, the bottom 50%, shares less than 2%. So think about that, my friends. It's not when people say, oh, there's not money to go around. Oh, there's just no money left. No, it's being hoarded by people that have just had it for a long time. And they make money off of their money and fuck everybody else. And then the bottom half of people have to fight and scrounge and fucking work hard and get tricked by the upper people who control the media and what we hear on a day-to-day basis, right? Come on, it's not that difficult to understand. It's not politics, it's not fear-mongering. It's just the truth. And until we get away from this idea that we need to make a bunch of money, we need this or we need that or we need that, or until we get to the place where like people actually grow a fucking conscience and give some of this money that is just like probably just sitting in bank accounts to do good in the world, then what the fuck else do we have to do than try to make our own local communities better one day at a time? What up there, Nikki? Hope you guys are having a good day. It's time to get going. The CDC says that those in higher income brackets report nearly 25% higher rates of loneliness than working class respondents. So yeah, when we talk about it politically and we talk about it socially, the idea of wealth inequality is really fucked in the head, right? But then when you flippity-floppity the script, let's start looking at what is the effects of these types of things on people. The effects of having a whole bunch of money or the effects of not having a bunch at all. So money lots of times can buy you silence, it can buy you big houses, it can buy you private offices, it can buy you gated comfort, but that silence, that comfort, that distance, and yes, my friends, isolation does not just happen in one person. You can isolate with other people, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I'll tell you this, that the distance itself, the distance that you put between other people, the distance that you put between all those people, so let's say we got the top 1%. So now we see that top 1%, that distance that they're putting by all the other people, well, that becomes the very disease, the loneliness epidemic, the disease of loneliness, the disease of being alone, keeps going. So, what do we do from there? Well, the distance, once it becomes a disease, goes to this. Recovery warns us, self-will will run a riot. When we chase control, we lose connection. That is why even in sobriety, isolation sneaks back through success. We may think, oh, you know what? I've got it. I made it. I did it. I succeeded. I got my sobriety. I got my this. I got my that. I finally did it, my friends. But wait, what's this? Isolation? I'm back being lonely again? But that is why even in sobriety, you need to be watching out for all these things. You can white knuckle your way through a promotion, a marriage, a new car, and still be dying spiritually. You can have all the things that people say that, oh, that was what makes you successful, and still be a miserable son of a fucking bitch. Think about the loneliness at the top, my friends. When you're so fucking wicked all the time, and then you become even more wicked, and then connect with other wicked people, and then they control a lot of things. And I'm not saying that just because you have money, it makes you bad or wicked, a bad person. Like, people are gonna be like, oh, you're just ragging against money. No, my friends. We are talking about rich, and the idea that everybody is trying to strive to get something that A, they're never gonna get, and B, that wouldn't even make them feel good when they got it. According to Yale School of Public Health, people who define success by financial gain report 30% higher anxiety, 40% lower life satisfaction than those who define it by community and purpose. So go out there today, my friends, and ask people, hey, wait a minute. What do you define as success? Do you define success as having some friends in your community? Or do you define success as financial gain? Because if you want to have low anxiety and lower and higher life satisfaction, the two things, my friends, do not easily coexist. And that's what I'm trying to get here, folks, is that it is rare. It is rare. And never can you be like, this never happens, or that never happens, or that always happens, or this always happens. You can't talk like that, folks. At least try to get into the habit of trying not to talk like that in all or nothings. Because then you start looking at the world in the way of all or nothings. And then you start treating people as all or nothing, right? So the world, it will sell us comfort. The world is going to sell us stuff that we don't need. But recovery is selling, nay, it is graciously giving out with a suggested donation. Recovery is selling out connection. Only one of these two things delivers in its promise for peace. So it's time to figure this out, right? The comfort cage. You ever notice how a warm blanket can smother you if you never throw it off? A warm blanket is oh so nice at a cold night, but then for some reason you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my God, I'm so hot, I'm dying of the sweat, and you throw it off. And you're like, I feel so good. But then, a couple seconds later, or the next time you wake up, you're like, and you're frigid cold, you're a friggin' ice cube. That, my friends, one second, I have to hydrate. When you're talking so much, you got to hydrate. Alright, so. Like I said, a blanket, a hot blanket's on you. It smothers you, man. You're like, oh God, I'm so hot. You throw that shit off. And then 5 minutes later, you're frigid. You're like, I'm freezing. The basic text, NA, right? Narcotics Anonymous says, we begin to believe we no longer need meetings or other addicts. That, my friends, if you feel that way, if you are an addict in recovery, an alcoholic in recovery, and you've had a teeny tiny little bit of experience with sobriety, and now all of a sudden you think you do not need your meetings, well, my friends, that is a dangerous slope to go down, and that is comfort talking. Comfort will start giving you those doubts that you even need recovery support anymore, right? That is isolation in disguise. The big bad wolf of isolation coming down there is Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, grandma, what big teeth you have. Oh, that's fentanyl, my dear. And that is why a Harvard longitudinal study found that those with strong social ties are 50% more likely to live longer than those who isolate. How about that, folks? So you want to live longer, it's time to make a friend. Not richer, longer. Connection adds years. Isolation subtracts them. And spiritually, my friends, well, complacency, yes, we talked about that a little bit ago. Complacency is the second cousin of pride. And yes, they're kissing. And yes, they're having sex under the bleachers. It's disgusting, it's immoral, and it's wrong. But I tell you what, folks, they still do it. When we stop reaching out, we stop receiving grace. The Just for Today meditation says our growth is not guaranteed. It is earned, though, through willingness. So you have to be willing to get a little better. What up there, Uncle Six? Hope you guys are having a good day. My name's Nick. This is Double Dog Addiction. We're talking about isolation. Willingness to stay teachable. Willingness to admit I don't know everything. The willingness to say that the National Alliance on Mental Health reports that people who stop attending peer support groups after 1 year are twice as likely to relapse within 3. So my friends, if you want to get past drug addiction, you need to get into a community. And you need to be opening your mind to the idea that you need a friend. What up there, Jacques Angels? We don't graduate from connection. We don't just get better one day from connection. We're not like, oh, you know what? I don't need this connection anymore. I think I'm healed past it. No. We depend on it. We depend on our connection. So yes, comfort may feel nice until you realize that it's isolation with better lighting. So if comfort is not the goal and peace is, and peace doesn't come from having more, it comes from needing less. And every time you say, I'm good, I don't need this meeting, or I'm fine, I don't need that call, or I'm fine, I don't need to call this person back, I don't need to call that person back. Oh, that's okay, I don't need to go to group today. Well, remember, that is isolation and danger knocking on your door and a new voice saying, hey, listen to me, it's not my usual voice, I'm a different kind of person. But it's still them. So stay teachable, stay humble, stay connected, folks, because the cost of comfort is everything that you have fought to get back. Getting from 0 days of sobriety to 2 years without a dribbity drop of alcohol was not easy, my friends. And how many 30 days have I gotten? How many 10 days? How many 1 days? How many just for todays have I gotten? And how many have I lost because I didn't have someone next to me that was willing to talk with me? What up there, Brett Short? Sorry if I butchered your name there, but I tell you this. The cost of comfort is these exact things that we paid, right? You paid this. You paid that damaging lifestyle. You paid those long nights of loneliness, and then you fought to get them back. What up there, Morir 50? Is that what that says, I think? You ever sit in a room? All right, let's start this one over from segment 3 because it's almost time. You ever sit in a room when everybody's nodding, but nobody is growing? That, my friends, is the echo chamber, where agreement can get mistaken for truth, right? And comfort replaces curiosity, because it's good to be curious about things that are different. In recovery, this room, of course, can look like a meeting where we only listen to the voices that sound like ours. Only go to a meeting and listen to someone say, oh, hey, you know what? That sounds good to me and only me, or that sounds like it'd be easy, right? But real healing doesn't come from sameness. Real healing doesn't come from the same old thing that you keep on getting, or keep on giving, or keep on doing, or keep on being. It comes from an open-mindedness to be willingness to have a little bit of suggestions to change in your life. Because when we become open-minded, we find freedom. We can hear truth in places that we never expected. We can get new lessons from old places. We can learn old lessons from new places, right? We can hear the truth in places that we never thought that we would find it. The road to recovery is wide enough for all who are willing to walk it. The road to recovery is wide and big, and it needs to have more people on it, and it's not such just a one-which way. The road to recovery is winding, and it wobbles, and it wobbles, and it goes this way and that, and not any one road is perfect, as long as it gets you in a nice, surviving place, right? What up there, what's that say? It says NV Scopex. I think that's what it says. But anyway, let's get to some key terms right here, folks, on segment 3. Open-mindedness, the practice of listening, right, for truth instead of defending belief. I'll say it again, folks. You got to practice listening for truth from all these places, right, and stop already going out there just defending your beliefs. Right? Be like, oh, I'm going to believe that. Or, oh, I'm going to defend my beliefs to that. Defend my beliefs to that. Instead, open your mind to being like, what are you saying? What are you saying about this? Oh, interesting. What are you saying about that? Don't argue with it there. Just let it sit. Listen to their truth. And then go back and think about it later. And if you still think it's silly, just let it go. Right? Group think. Group think. It's collective comfort that kills growth. If you're not challenged to be different, if you're not challenged to grow, if you're not challenged to have a little bit of what ifs in your life, you're just going to settle to the bottom in your group think tank of loneliness. And yes, you can be lonely with other people. Oh, think about that one. We'll talk about that a little bit though. Willingness, the courage to admit that there might be another way. There might be another thing that's going on that you didn't know was such a thing. Right? We don't have to be alone to isolate at all. That's a common misconception. We can hide inside a crowd that looks and sounds just like us. And that's where the echo chamber lives, folks. That's where it lives, in politics, yeah. In religion, yes. In recovery rooms, in families. Yet sometimes we act like we do. The big book reminds us we don't have a monopoly on recovery. Oh no. The big book reminds us just of that. But sometimes we think that we have that monopoly on recovery. Sometimes we think, oh, Smudge is the only one that can help me get sober, right, Smudgy Wudgy? Oh, yes, I'm Mr. Smudgy, hello. But, my friends, he does not have the monopoly on what? On recovery. We filter out new ideas because they challenge our comfort. We filter out new ideas because they might make us uncomfortable. We challenge new ideas because they might make us grow, they might make us change. And according to Pew Research, 61% of Americans say they rarely, if ever, nay, never, talk with someone who holds opposing political beliefs. How about that? So people are ripping and ragging on each other, but no one's even taking the time to really actually talk and figure out why are people so different in their opinions, but so steadfast in their ability to not talk with other people about it. And the less we cross the lines, the less we talk to people who don't agree or talk like us or are like us, the more those lines harden. The harder it is to do something, the more hard it's going to be to do it. And that's how communities fracture. That's how nations break down, not through conflict, but through silence and ignorance, right? In recovery, it's the same thing. The NA World Survey found that members who regularly share with newcomers report, Smudge, what are you doing? Here, come on. All you gotta do is say something, you little nerd. All right. I think the cat wanted a treat. Go on. Go get some food. Go on. Yeah, like I said, the NA survey found that members who regularly share, right, with newcomers report 35% higher satisfaction and lower relapse anxiety than those who keep in their clique. So even in AA, NA, all the A's are AA, people can be in cliques, they can be in the who's who of the who's who, right? But isolation hides in that sameness. Isolation hides in that inner sanctum. What up there, Tina K-pop? And here's the Marine truth. The unit works because every man and woman brings something different to the fight. You don't have a platoon, or you don't have a squad just of all mortarmen. If everybody's shooting a mortar, like who the heck's gonna shoot the rifles? Who's gonna survey? Who's gonna carry the radio? You know, who's gonna command? Who's gonna do everything? You don't have just one of everything, right? Listening is the service, folks. Listening, being open-mindedness, is not about being soft. It's not about being weak. It's not about being less than. It's not about being meek. It's not about being a bleeding heart. It's not about being lame, loser, fool, right? It's about being strong enough to stay curious about the world around us, strong enough to be open to the idea that maybe you're not right 100% of the time, or maybe you don't know about some things. The Just for Today book says we learn from each other's differences, not in spite of them. And this line, my friends, is gospel for recovery in life. Because when you only hear yourself, well, you stop hearing God, folks. UCLA Social Connection research shows that diverse social networks cut depression risk by 30%. Variety, my friends, literally builds social and spiritual and mental resilience. Same with spirituality, folks. Is that what we're saying here? We're saying that studies in the Journal of Positive Psychology found people who practice gratitude and active listening, right? Put that extra one in there, folks, are 40% more likely to maintain long-term sobriety. So we're adding these statistics, we're stacking them up, man. It's not like when you go to the grocery store and you're like, can I stack these discounts? Oh, my friends, when you do different things that benefit you in your percentage-wise of being sober, which is what we talk about here on Devil Dog Addiction, is harm reduction. We don't talk abstinence. We don't talk all or nothing. We don't talk 100% this or 100% that. We do say that we can be doing good today, but still have room to do better. And 1 second, I gotta take a little hydration break. That's right, folks. Gotta wet my whistle there. Even the AA preamble ends with it. Our common welfare should come first. Common welfare. Things that we have in common. What up there, Robert Frank? What up there, Luzalinia Gualto? Sorry if I butchered the name there, I apologize. But unity isn't uniformity. I'll say it again. Unity is not uniformity. It's diversity held together by love. So when you only hear your own voice, you stop hearing truth. Recovery, my friends, is a team sport. It's not a solo broadcast. It's not just you're standing there doing your own thing and then you'll be good in the hood, right? No, so sit next to somebody new. Ask a question instead of making a statement. Ask people what they feel, what they hear, and what they're making of a situation. And then listen like it matters, because it does. Listen like it matters because you care. Every echo fades over time, right? But every new voice teaches if you're open enough to hear it. It's Devil Dog Addiction Isolation, folks. Segment 4 of 5. The myth of more. Look, they told us happiness was somewhere out there. They said happiness is out there, you'll find love. Get some status, you'll be happy. Get some followers, get some likes, get some clicks. Get that next high, get that next big win. But more, my friends, has a gravity of its own. The higher you stack it, the further you drift from the ground. That keeps you human. And in recovery, when you chase more, well, it's just addiction wearing a brand new fancy suit. So stay tuned, my friends, because we are getting into it. Segment 4 of 5 of Devil Dog Addiction Isolation. I gotta go flip the record. All right, like I said, we got a little George Harrison going today. All right, here we go. So, like I said, the big Alcoholics Anonymous, big book says this: self will run riot. Though we usually don't think so, above everything else, we alcoholics must be rid of selfishness. We must get rid of selfishness. If you're an addict, if you're an alcoholic, if you want to be in recovery, if you want to get done with this addiction, what up there, what's this say? Tex No Mark Tram. Long name there, I like it. So anyway, like I'm saying, folks, if you're trying to get sober, if you want to be an addict in recovery, if you want to get rid of this addiction, you want to get rid of this affliction, get rid of this horrible thing, you've got to get rid of your selfishness. And I know it's hard. I know you don't. It's hard for someone who's selfish to think about not thinking about themselves. But I tell you this: if you want to get healed, if you want to get clean, if you want to get sober, you got to get rid of this selfishness, or it's going to kill you. It's going to get you one way or the other. God makes this possible, folks. You could say whatever you want about anything else, but how it works says this. But this line is not about religion. Okay? Here we go. I'm going to flip some brains here and fucking make everybody crazy, but it's about surrender. When self-will runs the show, everything goes to shit, and we start believing that enough is that moving target. When we finally get there, we're like, wait, it's over there. Oh, wait, it's over there. Wait, it's over there. And you can never quite get happy. When self-will runs the show, we start believing that we will never find what will make us happy. And every time we chase that fix of money, of power, of praise, of drugs, of anything besides what's good, we drift further from peace. It's not that difficult to understand, but people refuse to understand it. Self will run riot. The endless chase to control what was never ours to control in the first place. False fulfillment, folks, mistaking achievement for our purpose. So many times you can mistake getting an award or getting a thing or achieving something as our purpose, as our destination, Friends, the journey is the destination. To seek something, to be journeying towards something, the goal of getting something, the act of growth is the journey. Because if you're not growing, you're dead. Right? And if you're not growing, you will die spiritually, right? At least. And it's not that at most, right? It just changes form. Addiction does, folks. The high. What is the high of having more? Addiction never ends. It just changes form. You quit the bottle, but you start chasing validation, right? You drop the needle, but you pick up a phone, to check your likes, to check your follows, to check your clicks, right? You look online, look at this, you try to get excited about that. According to the American Psychological Association, people who measure self-worth through possessions score 30% higher in anxiety and 20% lower in relationship satisfaction. So your ability to connect with others is damaged by your inability to connect because of that reason. What up there, Cook, J.B. Hemi? I think that's what it says there. But that isolation, my friends, is in a designer jacket because the big book says selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Yeah, makes sense, right? It still is. Selfishness and self-centeredness, only thinking about ourselves, only thinking about when can I get mine? When do I get my next thing? When do I get this? When do I get this? So me. And look, when you say this kind of stuff, people don't like to hear it. They'll come across maybe if I'm doing something talking about, oh, I don't want to hear that. Oh, good Lord, I don't want to be challenged today. I don't want to feel good don't want to try to grow a little bit. But when life becomes a scoreboard, nobody wins. When you're measuring your life in what you get, you're only going to get misery. The Harvard study of adult development, 80 years long study, how about here, found that connection, not wealth or fame, is the strongest predictor of happiness and longevity. So you want to live a long, happy life? Learn how to connect to people, not make money and keep it, right? That's only 8 decades of proof that more does not fill the hole in our hearts. Only honesty, truth, and goodness can. We think we're building comfort, but really we're building cages padded with our own ego and locked from the inside. We think we're building these things that's going to make us better, but it really hurts us. And every time we lock another door, right, we hear the world a little less. You get so disconnected from the world, and before long, it's almost impossible for you to get out of it. The only way that some people get out of these cages they lock themselves in is when somebody who cares fucking tears that bitch down and goes in there and reaches in and pulls them out after them, right? And I've done that to a few friends. I've done that for a few members of A groups. And I tell you, my friends, people need people. And if you are a person who sees that already, the world needs you to be sharing that message to the rest of other people that don't get it. Because it may seem like something so obvious, but if you're not already understanding of it, you can be blinded by your comfort. You can be blinded by your privilege. You can be blinded by your need to not grow. Or you could be getting just tricked basically by the world. And self-will is going to whisper, you deserve this. Oh, you did that. Oh, you deserve this. You need one more. You know, you worked hard, so you better get yours, right? But God's will asks this. Do you need this? What up there, Dave Anderson? God's will says, do you need this? Right? The big book reminds us we had to quit playing God. It doesn't work. It doesn't work playing God. And yet the myth of more success, more respect, more control, the myth of control, it still hooks us in. Throws a hook, hook you in there, bad boy. The World Health Organization reports that workaholism, that's right, workaholics, right, now affects nearly 8% of adults, right? Correlating with a 63% increase in stress-related illness. Stress is killing people. Isolation leads to these things, lack of connection, and then addiction, and we try to fill it with these things. And then we teach our kids that that's the purpose of life. And then we wonder why everybody's so fucking miserable all the time. Or how we have high suicide rates. Why we have people, gun violence everywhere. Violent crimes and fucking life dissatisfaction. Fucking no shit. Right? It's spiritual greed, my friends. Believing we can fill a God-shaped hole with human shit. And yet a Yale study found that gratitude practices increase dopamine by 10% and lower cortisol, the stress hormone, right, by 25%. So not only are these things taking good things and doing good, we're getting rid of bad things. And isn't getting rid of something bad, it kind of evens out, right? It's just like getting something good. Almost, kind of, right? I'm not talking about that it's ice cream. Of course, I'd rather get one scoop of ice cream than have to give someone my scoop of ice cream. How rude. Fucking my ice cream. Shit. What up there, Faith? My name is like this Double Dog Addiction. Evermore promises freedom, but delivers chains. The job, the car, the applause, none of it fills the silence if you're empty inside. Peace is not earned, my friends. It's remembered. You have to do something and gain something to have that peace, to have it. It's a quiet breath when you stop running long enough to realize that you already have enough. You have enough of the things that you keep searching for, and the things that we should be searching for that can give us that peace. It's right here in front of us. When you stop chasing more, you start hearing enough. And that sound, my friends, is freedom. It allows you freedom to do other things with your mental space. Connection, it saves loudly, while isolation kills more quietly, my friends. One phone call, one hug, a meeting, one honest, how you doing, brother? How you doing, sister? How you doing, friend? How you doing, person that I don't know at all? That, my friends, is medicine. Recovery is never a solo mission. It's a relay, folks. It's passing that baton and handing it off. Someone handed you hope. Now it's time to pass it on. We're not meant to live alone, friends. We're not meant to lack human connection. 24-Hour Day book says it best. We're not meant to live alone. God intends for us to help each other along the way, the road of life. When we reach out to others, we strengthen both them and ourselves. That's a daily meditation, November 3rd, Hazelden Press. Paraphrase this, my friend said, it's simple. Connection is service, and service is survival. So in terms, connect A to C, connection is survival. Every hand you reach for keeps both of you standing. And it keeps both of you in a spiritual place of fitness. And that's how the program works. Strength shared becomes strength multiplied. All right, we're getting into it, folks. Key terms for this one. Connection, the bridge that turns recovery from survival into purpose. There we go. We'll get Cat. Come on, Smudgy. Come on. Come on. I know. There you go. That's right, my friends. The big book says that practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. And that, my friends, is the basis of the entire program. It's basis of Christianity, basically, right? Is that human connection and loving one another and gaining strength from finding out that, hey, I'm not alone. What up there, Amy ZQ? Or, hey, I can get through this because somebody else did too. It turns out serving others isn't just good morally, it's good medicine, folks. The CDC reports that volunteers experience 20% lower rates of depression than non-volunteers. So all these statistics that we're adding together already today will have people like 200 to 400% feeling better. Turns out it's time to feel better. And veterans, well, you know this. We heal in units, right? We fight alone, but we win together. And that's the Devil Dog Addiction difference. Connection is our fire watch against the dark, my friends. The big book's into action. One second. I gotta get a little hydration real quick. Alright, like I said. The big book's into action chapter says, faith without works is dead. That's a little stole that line from the Bible, obviously. But connection is the work. You can pray for peace, but God usually sends it through another person's voice. That's right, folks. A lot of people be like, oh, I heard God there, I heard God there. Okay, I guess you could say that or not. But I would have to say that if people are being honest with themselves, if you're hearing a voice inside your head that's not your own, you probably need to go talk to a psychiatrist. You might have schizophrenia. But anyway, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a trained licensed professional, so don't take that as medical advice. But I'll tell you this. You can pray for this stuff, but it's usually not going to be like a lightning strike out of the sky or like some freaking crazy-ass miracle type thing, folks. Usually it's interesting things that happen where you're like, oh my goodness, that's weird. But really it's divine intervention, and you can see the connection on a day-to-day basis if you look for it. The Cleveland Clinic found that people who maintain 5 close supportive relationships have a 60% lower risk of substance relapse over 5 years. 5 people, right? That's right, folks. That's not a squad, not a crowd, right? It is a squad, not a crowd. Neuroscientists call a social homeostasis is what it's called. Your brain literally stabilizes when you feel seen. Your brain literally feels even with your body, mind, and spirit when you are good with yourself and the people that you care about, right? That's why the VA's Connected Care program shows a 30% drop in suicidal ideation among vets who join peer support groups. And right now, veterans kill themselves at 17.5 times a day, which is a ridiculous amount. And right now, with the government closed, who knows what's going to happen when disability and different types of things are affected by the money and all that shit. It's just ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And they say, oh, there's not enough money. There's plenty of fucking money. We already talked about it already today. There's plenty of money there. Just people that have all of it, they don't like to fucking do anything with it except hoard it in their little fucking in their money accounts and all that shit. But anyway, 24 hours a day reading says this: when we share our strength and hope. That's right, folks, because there's a lot of bad out there. There's a lot of shit out there. There's a lot of negative. There's a lot of bumming out, man. There's a lot of oh shit stuff going on every day. And I tell you what, it takes a lot of effort not to feel miserable on a day-to-day basis. So that's why we're trying to put the effort in right here for you. We're going to put it all together. We're going to talk a little bit of stuff like that. We're going to make sure that number one thing that we don't do is what? Isolate. That's right, because they showed about isolation, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we don't want to be, because the opposite of isolation is what? Connection. That's right. I couldn't hear it. I thought that maybe you guys had a microphone, but I guess you don't. Every scar you carry is a map somebody else is reading. So don't hide it, folks. Put a little light on that, let my light shine, all that good stuff. Hold it up and say, I made it through. I made it through, so you can too. I tell you what, folks, that if I made it through addiction, if I get through that right there, you can definitely get through it. Hold this bad boy up and say, I made it through. Come on. Down. You're up. Because recovery is not about perfection, it's about presence. Connection is how grace travels. Isolation divides, my friends. Connection multiplies. That is the cure, and it's free. I tell you what, folks, the cure is free. The connection is real. And every time we go out there and reach our hands out to another person, it is a potential life-saving thing. So stay humble, folks. Reach out. Care about one another. I'm Nick. This is Double Dog Addiction. Stay human, stay humble, stay connected. And remember that we always fight together. Peace.